Background. Due to medical problems, I lost a baby when I was 22 and have been unable to conceive since. Doctors say I have a 15% chance of ever becoming pregnant. In December 2013, Richard, brother-in-law, and I got into an argument when I threatened to call CPS if he left a party with my niece while tipsy. Edit. Richard has totaled 3 cars, had 2+ DUIs, been in rehab but always got back to drinking. He broke his leg in one of the crashes. He has ruined several events while drunk, and I was not about to let him potentially K my niece on icy roads. I hope no one else thinks this makes me a B for doing it. He told me I would regret it. He went home, sobered up, and seemed all right. We talked about it and he apologized. He tried to watch his alcohol intake around me. I thought he was doing better. March 2014. I got married in the middle of March. Tyler, husband 28 years old, was hesitant to invite my sister, Claire 24, and Richard. He said something always went wrong when they were around. I should have listened. Claire promised to keep an eye on Richard because he has a tendency to become obnoxious when drunk. We had about 50 guests, and Tyler wanted to allow people to give speeches. We had a videographer set up to record them. Richard went up to the mic, drunk, and gave a hate-filled speech. He said Tyler should run because I am a controlling B. He announced my sister is pregnant a second time. He finished with saying he hoped God continued to punish me by making me dead as duck down there. The videographer cut out that bit of the final video, but I keep hearing it in my head. Everyone heard it. Current problem. Claire wants to fix this, but I'm not sure I have it in me to forgive Richard, at least not for a long time. I don't want to be bitter, but he is an a-hole and I hate him at the moment. What can I say that will help my sister see that this is not something that can be fixed right away? I want to make it through this without ruining the family, but it feels impossible. Advice, help, thoughts. What can I do or say to make Richard understand what he did was beyond hurtful? I just don't know what to say to make them understand. Honestly, I would never forgive someone for something like that. I think most people would agree it's unforgivable. If I was your husband, I know I would never want to see his face again. I cannot stand it when anyone disrespects my significant other and get very upset when in the presence of anyone who has. Mainly because I want to cave in their face. But I know that's a bad course of action. If he's saying stuff like this to you at a party, it makes me wonder what kind of things he says to your sister in private. And I don't mean about you. It makes me wonder how he treats her and his daughter in general. Your sister could very well be in a hurtful relationship. Update. Noon. Tyler, my husband, called up Claire and Richard to talk. They went to lunch. Tyler told them what they said to me was wrong. He did not want them around me or in our home. He said niece was free to still visit, but he was washing his hands of them. Claire and Richard tried to leave hubby with the bill, but Claire forgot her purse. Tyler paid his part of the tab and was already gone, so Claire was asked to pay. This made Claire furious. She felt hubby should have paid for the lunch since he invited them out. Afternoon. Claire came to talk to me about Tyler. She was upset. I invited her in and we sat on the couch to talk. Claire seemed really stressed and was near tears. She ranted for a good 20 minutes about Tyler and the family disrespecting Richard. She never took ownership of anything, blaming it on others. She claimed everyone in the family hated Richard for no reason. He was a good man and a good father. The family put their foot down and told her Richard was not allowed at any events in the near or distant future. She told me that people in the family were telling her different things. Some family members would not even talk about Richard, as if he were a bad word. Others said if Sue May forgives them, then we will talk about letting him back in. She believed niece was being punished for a miscommunication. This is BS, because everyone has always been concerned about protecting niece from Claire and Richard. If anything, they would have told Claire to drop niece off and leave. Claire said she would not be letting niece go anywhere Richard was not allowed. She thought people were being petty and saying, I don't want an alcoholic near my family. While I am not overly religious, Claire brought up the idea of God. We need to forgive one another and own up to our faults. I should apparently take ownership of the situation. I needed to apologize, not Richard, according to Claire's logic. She viewed my actions as abandoning her in her time of need. I asked her what she thought about what Richard said. What did I do to her husband that made his actions justifiable? Her answer was, you were rude and tried to prevent him from leaving with niece. Every time I tried to be logical, she backtracked. Hearing her blame me was more hurtful than what Richard said. I told her, you haven't asked how I am. I left the party in tears. It ruined my wedding. You never called to say you loved me or were sorry. You took him home, then blamed me for the whole thing. She seemed genuinely hurt I would accuse her of not loving me. She cared, but was having a hard time dealing with all this. Apparently, it was unfair Tyler was accepted and Richard was not. I should have had her back. She was hurt I didn't stand up for her. I asked her if Richard drank at home. She gave a vehement no. There was nothing wrong with her family. She told me to stop acting like she was in a bad situation. She was not. I finally told her that I couldn't have Richard in my life. I loved Niece, but Richard, and by her association, was toxic. I believed Richard's drinking problem would get them K'd one day. Niece could die, or worse, become paralyzed, mentally handicapped, or lose a limb. She didn't seem to grasp that Richard wasn't allowed around because he was obnoxious, hurtful, cruel, and crass. They should not have to deal with him just because she married him. Booze is not an excuse, and it never will be. Outcome: I let her know if she needed help leaving him, I would be there. I would take Niece at a moment's notice. I would always love her and the past we shared. However, I believed Richard to be a dangerous alcoholic due to the crashed cars and broken bones and DUIs. I was not going to sit there and watch him destroy her. She looked at me, mouth open, and tried to make excuses. Richard is stressed. The whole family was abandoning her. I told her that I would think about accepting him back into my life if, and only if, he got the help he needed, apologized sincerely, and was sober for 2+ years. She stormed out of the house. I won't see her for a long time. I hope she takes this to heart, but I finally said what needed to be said. 36 male. My grandfather owned a business that has been in our family for generations. Everyone in our family has worked or helped out at the business. About 10 years ago, Papa decided to retire. He was starting to have issues with his health. The business was failing due to lack of help and financial issues. My father and his siblings are older and most retired, so they didn't want to be bothered with it, nor did any of the children, including my siblings. Said it would be too much work to get it back up and running properly. I took part of my savings and gave it to my grandfather as a down payment. There were a lot of naysayers, including my parents, siblings, and some other relatives, saying how I should have let my grandfather sell the business, thinking he would never see the rest of the money I owed him. Basically saying they didn't believe in me. Within the first 3 years, I'd paid him off completely, which made the business mine. The business is now quite successful. I have 3 locations, and thankfully my papa got to see the success before he passed. It went from being I couldn't do it, to them asking what I was doing with my money because they didn't see a difference in how my family and I lived. So there was all kinds of ridiculous speculations. My wife and I have always been humbled about our blessings and lived below our means because there was a bigger picture for us. We lived in a 2-bedroom house raising our family for over 15 years, driving beater cars. I had a home built from the ground up on a nice piece of land I'd acquired. Virus hit and stalled everything. It was finished at the top of this year. For the 4th of July, I invited the family down to celebrate. A lot of my family hadn't seen the home in person, so once they did, the talk of how much I was making came into place. Our home is now a 6-bedroom beauty with 4.5 baths that sits on over 60 acres of land and a private lake. I didn't entertain the conversation. My father brought up the suggestion of giving a percentage to the family, siblings and cousins. I told him I was, my family, as in my kids. My siblings have nice careers, but they also have a lot of debt. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Days ago, my mother mentions it again. I tell her that it wasn't up for discussion. She asks why I wouldn't want to share the success of my grandfather's business. I point out to her that while Papa may have started it, this was my business, fair and square, and it's my choice, and that it would never happen. Not liking my tone, she ran to my father and siblings, who have now been texting me crazy texts like I'm selfish, greedy, that I don't care about our family. I've ignored it, but I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong here. Not the a-hole. Maybe for Christmas you can get them all copies of The Little Red Hen. Not the a-hole. It's not their business. You purchased the business, renovated it. They don't get to demand a slice of the cake after you made the cake, just because the flour you bought fair and square was owned by Papa once upon a time. Edit. Don't forget to get your affairs in full order, because your relatives are the type of people to contest any wills and whatnot. Not the a-hole at all. You bought the business. It's not like it was a gift, and they weren't even interested in taking it themselves. Now they're grappling for presents after you put in the work. What a bunch of a-holes. Also, since your papa has already passed away, I assume his inheritance went to the family, including the money you paid for the business. Yes, my grandfather left his inheritance to my father and his siblings. 43 female. I've been very involved in my niece, 13 female, Scarlett's life. I frequently visit my sister and brother-in-law, and often have auntie days with Scarlett, her sister, and my own kids. Scarlett is a beautiful, creative, and clever girl, but she unfortunately can have an entitled attitude. Her parents are middle class. My sister works part-time while my brother-in-law is a magnet school principal. We explained to Scarlett that she is not going to get everything she wants in life, but we will always make sure she has whatever she needs. Scarlett isn't the only one who gets told no, as this applies to every child in our family. Scarlett still believes that because certain kids at her school have more money than her, she should always get expensive things too. She also has an attitude that because my partner and I make more money, we should buy pricey things for her. My sister and brother-in-law just continue to enforce boundaries and say they are waiting for when Scarlett matures. Scarlett's birthday is in a week. We will be on vacation on the actual day, so 2 days ago I treated Scarlett to a mall trip. We had a spa day, got lunch, then were about to head home when Scarlett said she wanted to go to the Apple store. Scarlett showed me one of the MacBook Air laptops and told me she wanted it. I asked if the Chromebook I got her for school was broken. She said it worked, but a girl in her class had a MacBook Air, so she wanted one too. I explained to Scarlett that if she were willing to wait until Christmas, I could try to find one on sale, but I couldn't afford it at the current price. Scarlett began to throw a tantrum because my son has a laptop that's over $2,000. A laptop I got secondhand and which my son has used for over 8 years. I explained this to her, but Scarlett continued her tantrum, calling me a greedy witch. I firmly told her, Scarlett, if you do not stop this behavior right now, I will return your other gifts and you will get nothing from me. Scarlett continued to use profanity towards me, so I told her, that's it. We walked back to all the stores and returned everything. Glittery phone case, jewelry, stuffed animals, everything. The only thing I did not return was a book, but I kept it and told Scarlett I will hold on to it until I feel she has learned to be grateful. Scarlett whined in the car about not getting the things, and I told her, Scarlett, you have to be grateful. You would have gotten all those things, but you weren't, and now you have nothing from me. Many kids' families can't even afford food. I want you to really think about all the things you have and learn to be grateful. My sister and brother-in-law agreed with my actions, but my brother-in-law's parents say I was cruel to take birthday presents from a child, and they would be rebuying Scarlett the gifts I returned. I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior, and Scarlett will never be content until she learns to be grateful. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Hell no. Have you seen these kids today curse their parents out in the store and being so disrespectful? It is absolutely appalling that this is a generation we are raising for the future. It'll be a future of just me, me, me. Don't we have enough of that already? I don't care if you're a parent or not. You did the right thing. When she is grateful, she can have one of those two things back. I, like you, believe in not taking away books from kids, but everything else can go. Once she learns to be respectful and grateful, then she can have that book for her birthday, maybe. I wouldn't allow her at grandparents' house, who think that mess can fly. Nope. Not without parental supervision and a firm dragging out and going home when she gets mouthy. No ma'am. Not the a-hole. For it to be a complete lesson, Scarlett's parents need to return any items her grandparents purchased for her as well. Got to nip this spit in the bud. Not the a-hole. She called you a greedy witch. If I had ever spoken to any adult like that at her age, I would have probably been grounded for a year. Not sure if she always uses profanity with adults when she is angry, but her behavior needs to be checked before she does it to someone that does not care for her the way you do, i.e., a school teacher or a classmate, and gets suspended. You were right to return her birthday gifts because bad behavior should never be rewarded. Returning them was the consequence of her actions. In my teens and early 20s, I had terrible cystic acne that left tons of scarring on my face. Various treatments are getting it better, but I'm still working on it. I've also never dated. I would say not because of my skin. My parents had no dating rules for me during my isolated homeschooled high school years, and no sex prohibitions while I lived at home during college and after graduation. Basically, no dating life allowed. My parents are loving, but I've long known they've had, at the very least, anxieties about me being involved with guys. Anyway, I was bemoaning my acne scars in the mirror, and my dad overheard. We're all in the same hotel room on vacation. And he was saying, "Oh, don't worry," and jokingly said while walking away, "Great for keeping the guys away." It was a major slip, and my mom nudged him and he apologized. But it just confirmed what I think my parents have probably thought for a long time. So I won't accept his apology. I didn't even make a grandstand like, "I'm not accepting." I just didn't respond when he did. It's more than just this moment. Just a buildup of control I've been realizing a lot over the past year. Now I feel like I'm ruining the family vacation. Mood is different. My mom says I should just get over it. I need advice on how to proceed from this situation. How is controlling every single one of your steps loving? I don't see that as loving. They isolated you from the outside world. Also, parents who say this will keep the boys away are usually the first ones to nag their daughters for grandbabies. A lot of people are telling you to cut or limit contact. This will help out to an extent, but I think direct communication will help you further. Your parents make a joke about keeping the boys away. You reply something like, "Oh, So you don't want me to experience the loving marriage you have? Is there something about marriage I should be scared of? Do you want me to be single and childless? What adult life would you like me to have? This will be met with dismissiveness like, "We were just kidding, don't take everything so seriously." That is when you stick to your guns. What is funny to you about me being single at 25? If it's not funny, you're redirecting back to the joke they made earlier. Keep chasing them through these loops. They may eventually excuse themselves when they can't win, but they will learn that you're not going to take their crap anymore.